When you put your heart and soul into creating something, you want it to make an impact, to endure, to express something. What does it take to get there? I'm Questlove, and this is Quest for Craft, my collaboration with the makers of the Balvenie single malt Scotch whiskey. A deep dive into the obsessive, never-ending, whatever-it-takes journey to create something extraordinary. When you have an idea you're passionate about, yet it seems there's no place for it in the world, do you pivot to something else, or do you stick to it and change the world? My guest, Lin-Manuel Miranda, sticks to it. Through sheer tenacity, he turns crazy, unprecedented ideas into crazy, unprecedented successes. Lin-Manuel and I are at Electric Lee Studios with the Balvenie Single Barrel 12, and we're discussing craft and persistence. Does holding on to your original vision hold you back? Or is it the magic dust that enables you to create something groundbreaking? You know, it took you 6 years to write In the Heights and 7 years to write Hamilton. What keeps you going?
The idea itself keeps me going. You get to a point where it feels worse not to finish it than it does to finish it. At least I do. With Heights, it was much more life or death. It was, you know, I was a substitute teacher at my old high school, and I wanted a living in this business, and they don't write parts for Latino actors, really. And so I was just writing the show that I hoped would give me a foot in the door of theater. With Hamilton, it was really different. It was really weird. I picked up that book. I couldn't. After I finished the second chapter, I went on Google and wrote Alexander Hamilton movie, Alexander Hamilton musical to see if someone had done it, because so much just happened in the first two chapters. It was such a good story.
So who's the person that you trust the most to give you that? Well, everything
pow,
that
pow, as your
right,
I would say.
Yeah, well, for me at least, I've always had a figure and a person named Richard Nichols, and for the first time now that he's not here, I have to be that person, and I'm so frightened.
Yeah.
So
it's weird. There's a moment where you look around for the adults, and suddenly they're you.
You're the adult.
That's really only happened to me in the last couple of years. For me, it was very real when Stephen Sondheim passed. That was someone who, I mean, he's mentored generations of artists. He's famous for writing people back. But I was very lucky in that I got to work with him a little. I had to do Spanish translations for a production of West Side Story. And he was really open and collaborative about that. But he was more intrigued by what I was writing than West Side Story. And so he said, just keep me updated on that. And I really took him at his word, and I would write him all the time and just send him songs. And he would write me things back like, you know, and they were really great. He was just like variety. Every time, he said, the thing that's tricky with hip hop and theater is if we start bobbing our heads, we're in danger of like stopping listening to the words. And the words are everything in musical theater. And so like every 8 bars, just do a cutout. And you know, the great producers already know this.
Wait, you do that on purpose?
Yeah.
I always wanted to know that. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
And it was just like, just keep us listening. Just keep us listening. The rhythms are so great, but like, just change it. Just like zig and zag and surprise us. And that was like kind of on my shoulder the whole time I was writing that. And he was also our encourager in chief. Like, so when he passed, it was like, well, who's going to write young writers back and tell them they're good, doing a good job and keep going? So like, I do that a lot more than I did because we look around for the grown-ups and they're not around anymore. They're us.
To borrow from what you said in your films, like, would you rather be led by fear or love?
Yeah.
Are you ever motivated by the fear of rejection or fear of a pan or fear of, or is it still love and passion that motivates you? I
think you have to have enough love and passion to withstand the barrage of opinions that come with the world having their opinions at their fingertips now. Like, used to be, you had to really seek out negative opinions of your work. You had to go read a bad review. You had to go sit in the audience next to someone who didn't like it. And now it's like, you know, you can get, you ain't shit anytime you open your phone. But, you know, I mean, that fear or love thing, like, you have to get to this point where you go, this thing needs to exist. And people will have their opinions. The only thing I can control is the thing I make. and do the best job I can on it. And if you're proud of that, then like whatever people think is fine, because you made a thing, and all they did was say something about a thing.
Right. All right. So when you wrote In the Heights, you were a substitute teacher.
Yeah.
And when you wrote Hamilton, you were a Tony Award winner.
Yeah.
For anything that you create now, is there a mountaintop in your head, or are you on the floor of a new ceiling that you're going to?
Well, the interesting thing that happened with Hamilton was it was a thing I worked really hard on, and it met a moment where, again, for better or worse, like everyone who saw that show left and told 10 people about the show. Mm-hmm. And that continued and still continues 9 years in. We're 9 years into Hamilton on Broadway. So part of you has to make peace. And I made peace with this in the first year. Like, that's the first line of your obituary handled. Like, all right, Hamilton writer Lin-Manuel Miranda was hit by a Mr. Softy truck today. My disgruntled Mr. Softy driver.
Yo, that's the perfect way. In these 6 million ways to die, choose one.
Yeah.
That's the way I want to go out with a Mr. Softy
But so, like, you can think of that as a prison, or you can think of that as freeing. And so, I think about Galt McDermott. Galt McDermott wrote the music to Hair, and then he just made cool jazz for the rest of his life. And you hear that in every hip-hop sample, like, ever from there on out. Like, that's almost a legacy to equal this sort of genre-changing hit that he wrote 50 years prior. But he just kind of kept making cool music. So I try to think of it like, just be Galt McDermott. Just keep making cool shit. And if it catches a wave, great. And if not, like, it's fine. The obituary is handled.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm forever going to see every Mr. Softy truck as the start of your ending. The home of Quest for Craft, Electric Lady Studios, is a shining example of persistence. The studio was created by Jimi Hendrix in 1970. We talked to managing partner Lee Foster about why and how he ensures the studio's original spirit persists for new generations of artists.
This place attracts the most talented people in the world. Bowie, Stevie, Patty, up to now, Kendrick, Rosalia, Frank, Jack. All of that happened here. I don't remember exactly how old I was when I first arrived here. I was, I believe, 24, sweeping the floors, and the music industry as a business had fallen. It was just devastated by digital technology, and me coming in as a young person, literally a moment where someone threw the keys in frustration into the center of my chest and said, make this work or shut it down. I mean, what are you gonna do? You gotta try, I think the challenges with this, and probably most businesses, is change. And the idea of persistence that we're talking about is being able to feel those things and not just get so rocked by it that it throws you off your game. You have to be willing, even when it's terrifying, to reach in a new direction and try something. I think it is not about the building as much as it is about a group of people that cared enough to carry this forward.
What keeps you attracted to musicals? And is your goal for musicals to rewrite the wheel or whatever?
No, I just want to make really good ones. I mean, that's all I've ever wanted to do. It's to me, it's the hardest art form because it's so much collaboration, and it's every bit as hard as movies, except you get the instant gratification of a live audience. You make a joke on a movie set, and in 2 years, you hope they laugh.
Right, it's still funny.
Hope it was funny. The director laughed, but with theater, it's all of that work and all of that rigor and all of that collaboration. And collaboration really is the fun part for me. It's just getting in a room with people and making something you could never make by yourself. But, and again, like with Steve's passing, you look at the body of work he left behind, and that's what I aim for, is just to have like a body of work, and like some people really like some of them, some people skip other ones entirely, but I just want to get to make as much stuff as I can while I'm here.
Does persistence necessarily mean sticking to your guns, or are you a person that can pivot?
Yeah, no, I'm very open to shift. Your gut is the only barometer of like when you've strayed too far from what you started out doing. I mean, you came up in a band. Like that is, so collaboration is at the root of everything you do. It's funny, I was talking to an MC who did a cameo on the new thing, and he was like, so how many writers did you have for Hamilton? I was like, oh no, it was just me. And he was like, what? I was like, I mean, I worked with the director and I worked with the cast, but like, yeah, it was just, I mean, no one else wanted to read those fucking books. Like, it was me.
I gotta admit, I got the book and then I cheated off like...
Yeah, but it's a big book.
It literally by like chapter 4, I was like, you nerd. Like, who does that?
Yeah, but you know, music is so much about like, and you bring the beat and you write your verse and you write your verse and we're all gonna put it in the pot. We're making a potluck. And musical theater is sometimes like that.
But how do you know when to just put the pen down or to let go and let your kids out? Like,
yeah, I mean, with Warriors, I mean, I saw that movie when I was 4.
Wait, what?
Correct. They were not home.
Oh, okay. I was like,
I was
what were y'all thinking?
I was at my friend Adam and Jason's house, and I know it was a VHS because I heard all the curses. It wasn't WPIX.
Okay. All right.
It wasn't dubbed, and it scared the shit out of me. But I remember tracing, even when I was a little kid, tracing the Warriors' path from the Bronx to Coney every time I was on the subway. I was like, oh, they started above me in the Bronx, and then figuring out the arc of the movie, like as a kid, as a little kid. And then I sort of started working on it a little bit after Hamilton because Hamilton had happened and I was like, well, what do I want to write next? And that had been sitting there kind of all my life and it just sort of raised its hand. And I quietly started trying to get the rights and I wrote one song and was like, I don't want to do this by myself. And so I was like, who is smarter and cooler than me? And I thought about my friend Issa Davis, who was in Passing Strange when we were in the Heights. We were like the only black and brown shows on Broadway.
Right.
And everyone was trying to make a rivalry, but we were all friends. And so I said, do you want to write this with me? And she had never seen the movie. And I had seen the movie 700,000 times.
Right.
So we kind of worked, you know, sort of at opposite sides and then made our own new thing and wrote this album.
What's your routine? Are you best in the morning time when an idea comes, or is it stay up till 0 in the morning?
I mean, I'm on 4 hours sleep right now because I had to write a demo for the closing credits song for Mufasa today. But the way it got written was I booked studio time at 11 a.m. I booked a friend of mine to sing. And so I wrote it last night. But if I hadn't booked the studio time, I wouldn't have written it.
That's risky.
It's very risky. I'm really tired, and this whiskey is hitting great.
All I ask is risk-taking...
But that answers your morning person question because I couldn't do an all-nighter. I wrote till about 12:30. I got 2 verses and then was like, I'm cashed. I went to sleep on the couch next to my desk. I woke up at 4:30 and finished the song really fast because morning is better for my brain.
You are AI. And your idea process, do you just have a bunch of voice messages that...
It's all over the place. I got notepads everywhere. I have, like, voice memos. More often than not, I just really want to get a title first. If I got a good title, then, like...
Oh, no.
The song writes.
Titles for me are, like, last. Like, I'm a backwards guy. Like, for you, the title has to come first before you know...
For a song, a title really helps me because it's an organizing principle I can make the song around. And sometimes it's an assignment. Like, we had to write the opening number for the Tony Awards for Neil Patrick Harris. And it was like, we're going to be in Radio City, so I just wanted it to be bigger. I want to use every cast on Broadway. It's like, I wanted the song to be called Bigger. So, I was given the title. So I was like, all right, well, how do we make this mean more than... We have a lot of people on stage.
Right.
And so Neil is really brilliant. And he said, my only real talent is that I can read a prompter and my eyes don't move. He's like, so you can give me like the most verbal patter section and my eyes will go right down the barrel. Go watch Bigger.
And did he prove it?
Oh, yeah. And so I wrote him this really complicated...
You did it on purpose?
Yeah.
To test him?
Yeah.
On a live show?
So I wrote in this really verbal thing and I thought this is the place where we can make the turn in the title. So he says, And nothing is better than seeing a veteran getting a standing ovation or seeing a brilliant beginner freak out on a win on their first nomination. There's a kid in the middle of nowhere who's sitting there living for Tony performances, sitting and flipping with all the kinkies and wickeds, Matildas and Pippins and Mormonses. So we might reassure that kid or do something to spur that kid. Because I promise you, all of us up here tonight, we were that kid, and now we're bigger. And then everyone does a can-can. And now the word means more than we're in Radio City Music Hall. It means you sitting out there, one day you could do this. Because we were you.
Wow.
So, again, given the title, but I made something cool out of it.
Amazing. This particular whiskey, the Balvenie Single Barrel 12, is the Balvenie's most persistent statement of craft. It starts by distilling the spirit and depositing it into oak barrels that formerly contained bourbon. The whiskey then matures in the dark, in the heat, in the cold, during humid spells and dry spells. The variations are part of the process. Over the next 12 years, malt master Kelsey McKechnie periodically noses the whiskey in every barrel, literally sniffing out the most remarkable ones. The casks she chooses for the Single Barrel 12 are the Balvenie equivalent of first-round draft picks. Each cask yields about 300 bottles, each labeled with their own unique barrel and bottle number. No two barrels are alike, yet, thanks to 132 years of craft, each one contains the honey vanilla tones and fruit notes that are at the heart of every whiskey the Balvenie has ever made and will ever make. The Balvenie Single Barrel 12 is the outcome of time. But even more important, it is the outcome of faith and patience. The conviction that what happens in the barrel over the years will be worth the wait. Persistence is part of the craft. My final question to you is it ever not a good idea to just keep going?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I mean, yeah, you can't prescribe anyone else's life. You can only follow your own life.
But do you know how to just stop and reset and recharge, or?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I had good role models growing up. Like, one of my mentors is a guy named John Weidman. His daughter went to high school with me, Laura, and he co-wrote half of Sondheim's shows with him, and he just was a normal guy, raised 2 kids. He lived in Morningside Heights, and it kind of broke the myth for me of, like, you got to be a tortured artist to make great work. Like, he's just like Laura's dad. And he's over there, and he has 21 Emmys for his Sesame Street writing, but, like, he also writes Assassins in his spare time with Steve Sondheim.
Okay.
But John Kander's another guy like that, you know. Sweetest guy, been in a relationship for a really long time, lives a quiet, humble life, writes Cabaret and Kiss of the Spider Woman, like really the craziest shit in his shows. And so that kind of modeled for me, like, you can put all of the craziest impulses you feel into the work and, like, live a normal life. And this is a roundabout way of saying, like, if you were to ask me to go on the road with you tomorrow, I couldn't say yes or no off the bat. I have a wife and 2 kids I got to talk to. Right. I got a whole family I have that I am beholden to and that I have to show up for every day. And so sometimes those real life reasons keep you away from, you know, the thing, your pen or your microphone or whatever it is you need to be doing. And it's important to honor that sometimes. Again, your gut is going to tell you whether you've been neglecting something. It's going to come out in your work.
Right.
I'm a big believer that your gut tells you what to do, and cultivating your gut and your taste is the most important thing you can do as an artist. It's, if you see a movie and you think it's a piece of shit, don't turn your brain off. Don't walk out. Why is this a piece of shit? What is going wrong here? See as much things, read as much things as you can read. And in doing that, you create your own taste and you create a sense for yourself of the kind of work you want to create. So if you're doing that, you're never really stopping. Even if you're not writing the great American novel or making the greatest album of all time, you're slowly working your way towards the thing that doesn't exist but will because of you.
Thank you, Lin. Yeah. I appreciate it. Thank you,
Thank you.
Lin-Manuel Miranda, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
After talking to Lin-Manuel, I would say there is a direct relationship between belief and originality. When you're crafting something, you have to have unshakable faith in the work. In his own words, you're working your way towards the thing that doesn't exist but will because of you.